Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and I want to get something off my chest in this video. I've wanted to talk about this for a while. I've toyed with the idea of making a video about it. I've ranted about it a few times, you know, but I never made a solid, coherent video about it. So let's just do this. Let's dive in balls deep, right? Let's talk about the Final Getsuga Tensho, or Mugetsu, or whatever you want to. Actually, you know what? That's a good place to start off. This isn't the focus of the entire video, but let's just start with this. When you see Ichigo in this form, what do you call this? Do you call this Final Getsuga Tensho? Do you call this Mugetsu? Do you call it, I don't know, Zangetsu Ichigo? You know, I only bring this up because the name of it always kind of bugged me, right? So, because the normal Getsuga Tensho, that's just an attack that Ichigo uses while in his Bankai, right? It's like he swings his sword, and not even in his Bankai, he also has a version of it in his Shikai. It's his signature move. But he swings his sword, it, you know, gathers and amplifies the reishi, and then it shoots it out in a crescent moon shape. And it's a pretty basic attack, you know, it's the Piercer of Heaven, the Heaven Cutter or whatever. That's Getsuga Tensho, right? So I find it weird that he gets like a whole new form and it's called Final Getsuga Tensho. This would be like if Goku goes into a new form, like his entire body changes, like a whole new form, and that new form is called the Final Kamehameha. Kamehameha. Okay, well, we discovered another word I can't pronounce. But, yeah, it would just be weird, you know? It's just, it's weird that it's called Final Getsuga Tensho when it's like a whole new form or whatever. I just found that weird. Alright, so the thing I always had an issue with is that this form was presented as a Deus Ex Machina when defeating Aizen, and it really shouldn't have been. Kubo could have, incorporated this into the story a lot better, and it would have been so easy to do it, and yet either he blanked on it, he didn't think of that far ahead or whatever, but it's just one of those cases where I'm discovering that Kubo's not that great when it comes to finishing off your final antagonist in an arc. You know, we had the whole issue with Yuha we discussed in my top 10 Bleach moments of 2016, but then I started thinking like, yeah, man, you know, Ichigo versus Yuha, that was a disappointment. It's not like Ichigo versus Aizen, because that was a total, oh shit, that wasn't really that great either, you know. You know, and it's very similar, actually. Aizen, you know, absorbs the Hogyoku, he's fucking badass, no one can touch him, and then he just goes into another transformation, and another transformation, just keeps getting more and more badass. I'm like, holy crap, how is anybody gonna defeat Aizen? And then Ichigo shows up, you know, looking cool with the new Bankai, he's got the chain wrapped around his arm, and there's no, like, okay, they're sort of on equal ground now, there's none of that shit. It's like Ichigo shows up and just curb stomps, you know, bitch palms Aizen all the way across Rukongai, and then just beats the shit out of him with no effort on his part. In fact, some people have questioned, like, why did Ichigo even need to go into Final Getsuga? Because he seemed like he was winning pretty damn easily without it. It seemed like, you know, he was tossing Aizen around, cutting him down. It seemed like he could do all that without going into Final Getsuga, but whatever, that's neither here nor there, I suppose. You know, it just drains a lot of the tension out of it when you have this really powerful character. We knew Aizen was badass, that was set up already, but then he gets the Hogyoku and turns into a god, and he's even more badass, and it's like, the power gap between these characters are so great. You're either gonna have to have a lot of time setting up Ichigo learning a new skill in order to defeat Aizen, or you're just going to have to arbitrarily give him a new ability. And that's the problem. Final Getsuga Tensho, the idea of a second Bankai release, the idea of Ichigo having any such thing in his arsenal was never mentioned, never even hinted at throughout the story, right? Now, many people have said, well, actually, this is foreshadowing for Ichigo's Quincy heritage later on, because the Quincy's have the Quincy Let's Steal. Of course, it's the final form, so that's what Ichigo's Final Getsuga represents. And also going along that line, whenever a Quincy uses the Let's Still, they lose all their Quincy powers immediately after. Sounds very similar to the Final Getsuga. So perhaps that was what Kubo was going for. Okay, well, I still have a big flaw with that, and that is the following. How the fuck did Isshin know about it? Simple question. Isshin is not a Quincy. Isshin is full-blooded Shinigami. Okay? You know, he was born in Rokan. He's a Shinigami, you know, to the core, right? And yet, he was the one that dropped this bomb on Ichigo all of a sudden. By the way, Ichigo, there's this thing called the Final Getsuga Tensho, and you need to get Zangetsu to teach it to you. And that's how Ichigo finds out about it. That's how we found out about it. Like, Isshin was the one that knew it. And he goes on to explain very vaguely that, you know, the Final Getsuga Tensho, you know, our Zanpakutos don't want us to learn these kind of techniques, and you'll soon find out why. My Engetsu was the same thing. So we can assume, like, whoa, okay, so Isshin had it too. Or at least he had the potential for it. You know, he knew about the existence of the Final Getsuga Tensho, tried to get Engetsu to teach it to him. I guess Engetsu did not teach it to him, but he still knew about it. And then he's passing that on to Ichigo. Now, this would make sense because Ichigo is Isshin's son. You know, Isshin has the original Getsuga Tensho, and that technique was kind of passed down to Ichigo. So it makes sense from like a father to son why he would have it, but you can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, it's foreshadowing his Quincy abilities. Oh, but also his pure-blooded Shinigami father also had it as well. No, you can't have it both ways. And I'm going to be since the whole Isshin thing has more substantial evidence behind it, I'm going to go along with that line, you know? But even then, that still opens up a bunch of other plot holes. Like, whoa, okay, so do all Zanpakutos have that? Do all Zanpakutos have a second level of release beyond the initial Bankai release? You know, how did Isshin find out about it? If Engetsu doesn't want Isshin to learn about it, then how did Isshin even know about its existence? Unless Isshin used the Final Getsuga at some point, but when that would have fucking been is anybody's guess, because he did lose his powers at one point, but that was a completely different thing. That didn't involve Final Getsuga at all. So, you understand, it's like a fucking labyrinth. You know, the more and more you look at this, it really does seem like Kubo seriously pulled this out of his ass. Okay, and you know, it's just you dive down into the rabbit hole, you get further down, like, okay, Isshin knew it, but how did he know about it? Did he use it? If he didn't use it, then how did he know about it? Can all Zanpakutos, can all Bankais do that? Like an extra level release? Yeah, you know? Right. But you know what? All of that at the time, that was high-pitched, all of that at the time, I would have been alright with, because this was not the final arc like it was with Yuha. This was still, you know, we had a substantial amount of the story left. This was chapter 422, I believe, around when Deicide ended out. So, we had a good, you know, we had, well, it had to be longer than that because Deicide went up to like 24, but, you know, we had a good, 200 chapters left after this. You know, it wasn't like Bleach was going to end soon. We knew that it wasn't going to end soon. So I was like, all right, we don't know the origins of Final Getsuga yet. We don't know all that shit, but perhaps we'll learn about that in the future. The thing that bugged me, though, was that, it was seriously pulled out of nowhere when it didn't have to be. Okay? You had a lot of scenes in the series where Ichigo goes into his inner world to converse with Zangetsu and to encounter his inner hollow, and they do battle. Right? And there was foreshadowing for that as well. Remember back during the Soul Society arc when Ichigo went into his inner world when his fight Kenpachi. And, he has this, that's when we first meet, Shiro or, Hollow Ichigo or whatever you want to call him. And they fight each other. And then after Ichigo leaves, Hollow Ichigo is being assimilated back into Zangetsu, and he's just like, take care of that power because it'll be mine someday. Of course, this sets up for foundations for later on in the Rancor arc when Ichigo fights against his Hollow form, and that sets up foreshadowing for much later in the story when it's revealed that his Hollow is actually his Shinigami power, melded together with Hollow power. So and Zangetsu, the old man Zangetsu, that's just a Quincy power. So that sets up foreshadowing for that. So I said, all right, why can't you set up foreshadowing for the Final Getsuga? It would have been really simple to do something like that. You could have had an offhand comment from Zangetsu. You could have had, like, Ichigo leave his inner world to go fight Kenpachi, and then after Ichigo is gone, Zangetsu could have been sitting there or standing there on the building staring up, and he'd be like, maybe he won't have to use that someday, or maybe the time will come where he doesn't have to rely on that power. Just words. You could have thrown in just one sentence. That would have been fine with, just one bullshit sentence of dialogue. And it didn't have to be revealed for hundreds of chapters in the future, but that would have been so easy for you to do that. Another way you could have done it is maybe something a little bit more physical. Oda likes to... not Oda. Got One Piece on the brain recently. I don't know why. Kubo likes to do, stuff symbolically, like how rain works. Rain in the Bleach series is really fucking symbolic. Whenever Ichigo's having a hard day and going shit, it starts raining, either in his inner world when he found out about the origins of Zangetsu, how he's not really Zangetsu. It started to rain and everything started to become submerged in water. His inner world itself is symbolism. So perhaps you could have done something like, I don't know, Ichigo goes into his inner world and there's like, a black door or an object or something in this world that's always prevalent. Like, let's just use the door, for instance. Like, there's a door in his inner world that's like locked up with chains and shit. Sounds like the kind, and maybe it has like Japanese seals on it. Seems like the kind of thing that Kubo would have liked to draw. And it's like Ichigo's like, what's the deal with that door, Zangetsu? And Zangetsu's like, no, don't worry about that. You don't need to worry about that right now. Like something like that, setting it up for later. Like Ichigo has this latent power within him that is really badass. And Yuha, I guess it would be Yuha Zangetsu, doesn't want to tell him. I think that would be a really simple way to do it. But instead, we get this pulled out of our ass. We get this like, hey, Ichigo, you have this amazing power that was never mentioned before, but you got to go learn it. And Ichigo's like, okay. So he goes in his inner world, and then he learns it, and then he comes out, and then he's badass, and he takes out Aizen, and then he loses his power. Right? Also, I want to talk about the actual attack that he uses. Once again, the attack is not called Final Getsuga Tensho. The attack is called Mugetsu. Or Mugetsu, because I like to end out U's and I like to sound cool. Mugetsu! It sounds cool, But let's talk about the actual attack. Because from the perspective I'm looking at, the attack itself is not really special. It looks cool, but it doesn't look like it's anything like super uber, holy shit, that was the power that was locked within him. That he would lose his Shinigami powers if he would dare to venture into these such realms, the power of gods on high. All it does is it's just a really badass augmented sword swing. That's all it is. He raises his hand, and then like a vapor or something, like a stream of just like pure dark energy or Ryatsu or whatever you want to call it, just like extends out of his hand. He grabs it like a sword, and he's just like Mugetsu, and just shing, and then the darkness from the sky, like it envelops the sky, really badass, and then it just comes down in a straight line and just obliterates anything that's in that straight line. The width of it is like, it doesn't like wipe out the area. It's not like a cut that, is like super freaking wide. It extends for its distance, can extend for maybe miles. But I have a few questions about this technique. Like, okay, can you dodge it? Because it seems like it would be an easy thing to dodge, is all I'm saying, Even if, if you want to say, like, it's like Getsuga Tensho, where the attack comes from Ichigo. Like Ichigo is here, and then he shoots out Getsuga, and it's just shing! Or you want to say, like, the darkness actually, the attack actually comes down from the darkness of the sky. Like, Ichigo's here, and he's like, Mugetsu, and it just shing! Either way, it seems like the actual damage it does, like the distance, the width of the attack doesn't seem that bad. Because look at Aizen. Aizen took that shit head on. It cut him right in half. But I'm like sitting there like this. It was cool. Come on. You can't look at this and say this isn't cool. Ichigo, black hair, blood red eyes, freaking. You can't say that's not fucking cool. Of course this is cool. But, the actual effect of the attack itself, like, oh, it cut him in half. I'm like, All right, I was expecting something a little bit more than that. I think we were all like, Ichigo was dealing out. He was everything leading up to it was way cooler than the actual final effect, in my opinion. You know, Ichigo showing up looking like, you know, he's got the chain, got the Zangetsu's, like, its guard is like different. It's like wrapped around his hand, like the swords become one with him. He's bitch palming eyes and he's cutting him down. He freaking just slaps, you know, Hado 90, Kurohitsuji just into oblivion. It just shatters like glass. You know, and he tanks that fragger shit that Aizen uses on him. All that stuff was way cooler to me than just, all right, I'm just gonna cut you in half now, and just, and like, okay, like I was expecting like now the darkness coming down and like completely enveloping like a wide area and just like, you know, freaking atomizing everything in that area, but it's not. It's just a straight on slash that extends for miles. I'm sure you can't block it. I'm sure it's not the thing that you could just block, but couldn't you just be like, oh shit, okay. Well, that was easy. You know, I wonder if it's just like a homing attack, it just comes down, you know, and it just cuts you in half, you know, whatever. Oh, man, you know, maybe the reason I haven't felt like making a video about this is because, you know, this is a really badass scene in Bleach history, you know. Ichigo cuts down Aizen. It's the end of a story arc that was years and years and years being set up. And it's just like, well, we might have problems with it, but that one moment was still really cool. So I guess just for the coolness factor, we'll go with it. I don't know, man. Of course, I'm not going to go into the tirade of how this ability is never mentioned again or anything like that, because it isn't. It isn't. I don't think it is a single time. I don't think like you know, any time during Fullbring arc or the Final Year Blood War arc do they ever mention that the words Final Getsuga or Mugetsu ever again. I don't think. I think it's mentioned that, oh yeah, Ichigo lost his Shinigami powers, but the way he lost it is never mentioned, and he never, you know, it's never mentioned, talked about, you know, referenced, you know, again, like Ichigo by the time at the end of the series when he's ready to face down Yuha, you know, and he's got the badass dual swords. Is that the same level as when he was here? Dongai Ichigo, that most people call him, is that the same as that? Or is it weaker, stronger? You know, what is it? Where does Dongai Ichigo rank amongst the different versions of Ichigo? One more thing here. So one thing else that bugged me, you know, he goes into the Dongai for, I believe it was 2,000 hours, right? 2,000 hours equivalent to 3 months for him to train, and the Dongai to learn his Final Getsuga, you know. So obviously when he comes out, you know, it's been 3 months, so he's a little bit taller. You know, he's got his hair, you know, he's still 15 at this point. He's going through puberty, whatever. He's got the longer hair. That makes sense. The thing that this made no sense to me, period. It didn't make a fuckload of sense to me. Ichigo defeats Aizen, and then his form begins to disintegrate. His hair goes back to normal. The mask crumbles or whatever. And then he passes out. Then he has like a freaking heart attack, and he passes out. When Ichigo wakes up, you know, like a few days later, he's in his bed, you know, and his hair's back to normal, and his height's back to normal. And I believe it was one of Ichigo's friends, Uryu or Hime or Ohara, somebody mentions that, it was because that there's different stages between, you know, going through your Shinigami, losing your Shinigami powers. There's like different stages of this happening. And the first stage of that is the reversal of the time flow in the Dongai. And then slowly it's like, wait, whoa, and then you lose consciousness. That's the second stage. And I'm like, whoa, calm down. What? Okay, so there's stages in how you lose your Shinigami power. All right, I'm with you. I'm with you so far. This has even happened before in the series. Rukia lost her Shinigami power before. I'm like, all right, there's documentation for this. There's stages. I'm like, all right. And one of those stages is the reversal of time flow in the Ichigo being in the Dongai and learning that shouldn't be connected at all. Am I the only one that thinks that? Like, it's not a big deal. It isn't a big deal because whatever, but that doesn't make any sense. You know, it's like he happened to be training in the Dongai. What if he wasn't training in the Dongai? What if Ichigo just decided to learn Final Getsuga on his own, you know? Just like, I'm in the living world and I'm going to learn Final Getsuga, and I learned it. and then he still lost his Shinigami. That doesn't make any sense. The two should not be connected at all. Like, the place where he learned it shouldn't be connected to, whatever. I guess I'm going on and on. It's just, that's one of those little ticks about the series that just didn't click with me, like 0%. I'm just, that shouldn't, whatever. Anyway, I feel like I'm getting a little bit too nitpicky, a little bit ranty here. But like I said, yeah, this was something I wanted to talk about for a while. It was still a cool scene, not debating that. I'm just saying that it was a Deus Ex Machina. It was a device, in this case, an ability that the author literally pulled out of nowhere, never mentioned before, no foreshadowing at all, never really explained in a satisfactory way afterwards. Into the story to suit the author's convenience. Like, oh shit, Aizen's really strong, he's a god now, I need some way to kill him. Okay, Ichigo, there's no way he can beat him the way he is now, so I'm just gonna give him this power, now he can do it. What do you guys think? Comment below. I'm waiting on your hate. Bye? And no, I'm not on drugs. I know, it's just, this is just me, man. This is just me.